Here's some helpful things to know to get the most out of your Red Komodo-X, and some of these things can actually apply to some of the other Red cameras out there. So let's start with ISO. Now, if you're recording in a Red Code RAW, which I highly recommend on any Red camera, then you know that in post you can change your ISO to whatever you want. Well, the ISO value that you set in camera at the time of recording actually will have an impact on your overall image. Now, what I mean by that is the higher your ISO value is in camera when you set it before you record, the more detail you're going to have in your highlights. On the flip side, the lower your ISO goes, the cleaner your shadows are going to be, but the less detail you are going to have in those highlights. So even though you can change that value in post-production, it is going to have an impact on your image at the time of recording. Next up is compression. So in Red Code RAW on the newer Red cameras, you have HQ, MQ, LQ, and ELQ. Now, if you're familiar with the older compression ratios of RAW, HQ is kind of like 3:1 compression, MQ around 5:1, LQ at 8:1, and ELQ compression close to around 13 to 15:1 compression. In most cases, ELQ compression is fantastic, and it's what I use for most stuff delivering to the web or for filming interviews or anything like that. The only time I really bump up to LQ or MQ compression is when I'm filming something with a lot of details like wildlife or sports, or if I'm filming in low light conditions and want to have more information and detail in those shadows. Next up is hot swapping your V-mount batteries on your Komodo-X. You can actually do this, and it's really great, especially if you are using the DSMC3 touch monitor, because you can hot swap your batteries and you don't lose power to your monitor or lose signal or anything like that. So it's super awesome. All you have to do is either use your DC power brick that came with the camera or a D-tap to DC power cable and plug that into the power in on the camera. You'll see a little lightning bolt appear that'll let you know that you're being powered with external power. At that point, you can remove your drained battery and put on a fresh new V-mount battery, unplug the DC power in, and this is a really great way to save time on set if you are kind of running a stripped down rig like I do a lot of times with just the DSMC3 monitor, because the camera actually provides power and signal to the monitor through that one RMI cable. Now, be very careful if you are powering other accessories with the D-tap battery, because as soon as you unplug all those accessories or D-tap cables from that V-mount battery, obviously those accessories are going to lose power, and if anything is connected to the SDI port, then you want to make sure that you follow the SDI protocol, but still you don't have to wait for the power cycle of the Red Komodo-X. Next up are the user assignable buttons. You actually have 4 user assignable buttons on the Red Komodo-X, and this is specific to the Red Komodo-X, and these are actually on the record buttons, the one on the front and the one on the side. And the great thing is there are 4 because each record button has a half press and full press functionality, and you can assign these things to all different kinds of functions like toggling off false color or toggling on and off focus peaking or toggling on and off pre-record. There are a ton of different options out there to choose from, and if you have the DSMC3 monitor, you have 4 user assignable buttons on there. So with the monitor, you actually have 8 total user assignable buttons, which adds a ton of customization to your camera. Next up has to do with audio. Now, the preamps on the Komodo-X are fantastic. I'm actually using the Rode NTG5 straight into the Red Komodo-X right now. Now, the cool thing is you can actually unlink channel 3 and 4, and this gives you the ability to set different recorded levels of audio. So you can have a normal recorded audio level and a backup level audio. So if you're just using one mic, this is a great way to have backup audio recording. Another great feature of the Komodo-X is the pre-record function, and this is really helpful for sports or wildlife or something where you want to make sure you capture the action but don't necessarily just want to burn up media space and leave the recording the whole time. If you have pre-record on, when you hit record, it'll record up to a certain amount of predetermined time that you set on the camera before you actually hit record. Another fantastic tool that's actually available with the v-raptor and the Komodo in addition to the Komodo-X is Face Track Autofocus. Now, it's not built into any of the cameras, but if you use the Red Control app, you can actually enable face tracking autofocus, and depending on the lens and the scenario, it can actually work really good. I've used it in a number of interviews and have been really happy with the results. Well, hopefully you found some of this helpful or useful. If you did, let me know down in the comments below. There's obviously way more to learn about the Komodo-X, but some of these things hopefully will be helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.